Hey, for just a moment, I want to share with you about one of my heroes of the Bible. His name is David. We know a lot about David. We talk a lot about David. We know a lot of stories about David. But, you know, I just am always reminded of a couple of important things. When we think about the experience where the Philistines and Goliath was out there in taunting Israel, there was a little valley in between. Jesse sends David to take food and so forth to his brothers that were there, and of course David hears Goliath roar and everything, and David does something remarkable. I have to tell you, it does just something really remarkable. He simply just says, you know what? I don't know what everybody's scared about. This guy over here, he's not defying Israel. He's defying God. And for David, frankly, God was the giant in his life. And I think that's the one thing we must never forget. Everybody else saw the giant over there on the other side of the valley, but for David, God was a giant that was so large that Goliath looked like a midget compared to God. And I think it's an important thing. And because of that, he goes and says, well, somebody needs to do something. And of course, his big brothers, they were after him and said, you just wanted to get here and do this, that, or whatever. And David said, no, this is about God. This isn't about me. It's about God. And of course, word gets to Saul, and Saul says, well, this is wonderful, but you know, you're so small. You're a teenager. You can't do anything. And David says, listen, God has given me the strength to take care of lions and bears and to protect the flock. My God is able to do anything, and he can help take care of this giant. And so Saul says, well, that's great, but if you're going to go, you better go in my armor. And then he put Saul's armor on him, and David just says, look, I can't fight in this. This isn't me. And there's a couple of things that I come out of this story that are important. One is, God made you who you are. You've got to be able to fight in the armor that God created you with. You can't fight in somebody else's armor. George Vanderbilt was a good friend of mine, and George told me as a young preacher, he said, Rick, he said, just remember, you can ask me all the questions you want to ask. I can help you with a lot of things, but just remember, you can't be me. God didn't make you to be a carbon copy of me. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got. And I think that's one of the things that David helps us understand. You fight with what God gives you. That's number one. Number two is, David says very clearly, this isn't our fight. When we're fighting spiritual warfare, it's not our fight. The battle belongs to the Lord. And as long as we're trusting in him and walking with him, God is going to guide us through to have spiritual victory because it's his battle. And God never loses his battle. That's the reality. And if I'm walking with God, I have the assurance that God's going to walk me through it. Now, that doesn't mean everything is going to be like we think it's going to be in the here and now. God's ideas are a whole lot different than ours. But God, in the ultimate, he always wins the battle. And I just want to encourage you to think about the idea that whatever you're facing, whatever may be going on in the church, in your home, in the community, at work, remember to put it in God's hands because the battle belongs to the Lord. Give it to him. Think on it for just a moment.